couple of days after Christmas 2020, she woke up and she said she couldn't really see. So she went to her nanny and granddad's house, and quite immediately they called me, quite alarmed that she couldn't see any of the flashing toys and where she was in her surroundings.
So I went to my nanny and granddad's house. I got this toy and I couldn't see it. Then my nanny was standing right in front of me and I couldn't see her. And first I went to Bedford and I had my first camera and I screamed down the whole hall. And then I was terribly sick. Then I went to Abbey. We could go home for that night. Then we had to go to Addenbrooke's on Christmas Eve.
So I immediately took her to our local hospital, which was Bedford. And they didn't really quite know what was going on. She had various CT scans, MRI scans, but they didn't really be able to get a diagnosis. So we was then transferred to Addenbrooke's, who quite quickly was able to make a diagnosis of optic neuritis, was the first diagnosis, and we was able to treat that. Subsequent to that, she had more tests done, which came out as a diagnosis of MOG. She had treatment called IVIG, which made her really, 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 really poorly. She had quite severe reactions to it. They managed to recover some of the eyesight. We subsequently went for near enough over a year with no further problems, hoping that that would be quite okay, because usually with MOG it's a one-off attack. However, sadly, come Christmas 2021, we have had another relapse, and we ended up back in hospital in April 2022, where she had something called Plex, where she had to have needles put into her neck. We was in hospital for 2 weeks at Addenbrooke's.
I had to have plasma for 2 weeks. I had to stay in hospital for 2 weeks. And then later on, I had another terrible treatment. And then I've been doing DigiVis for about 2 years. And now I'm here with my toys.
She then got put onto something called MMF. That stabilised her for 6 months, and then Christmas 2022 we had another relapse. So she's now on something called Ruxmatab, which is the last treatment for Rita's condition. It's been such a traumatic 2 years. Obviously, with on top of the pandemic, with various lockdowns, I've had to do this mainly on my own without Rita's dad there, because obviously the hospital only allowed one parent in for the majority of this time. And it's not just that for us, it's nearly an hour journey there and back of all these various trips. And yeah, it's been really, really tough going. So DigiVision came about, they sort of told us not so long after Rita's sort of initial treatment that there was this program that we could try and use to monitor Rita's vision at home, because obviously the relapses were they're quite unpredictable. So it's been amazing to have at home instead of having the hour's journey to and from Addenbrooke's just for an eye test. So it's brought Rita sort of relief not having to be in the hospital environment and be able to do it in her own relaxed environment. And in a fun way as well. The program's really fun and interactive with children, and she doesn't really know she's doing a test as such. So she doesn't know what will happen with that. It's just for us, we're able to send those results to the hospital and they're able to monitor it remotely, and we'll obviously be able to pick up things if we need to communicate with the team. We can do so quite immediately. The toughest thing as a parent was when I was an inpatient with Rita in D2, is that it cost me a lot of money to stay eating well myself. Whereas in our local hospital, Bedford, the parents were fed and looked after as part of the patient's care. Whereas obviously at Addenbrooke's, that cost me an awful lot of money over 2 weeks, and the various other day trips and overnight stays we've also had there. I think all the team have been fantastic that Rita's had. We've been so lucky with the neurology team, the ophthalmology. Her ophthalmology consultant, Brenda, has been absolutely incredible through all of this. You know, she's been so supportive, because it is really tough for her. She was 5 when Rita started this journey, and it is really traumatic for a young child of 5 to quite suddenly lose their vision. The thing that's kept us going is Rita's obviously spirit is quite positive, and she brings much joy to all the staff that interact with Rita, so that's really nice, and we've been so looked well after. That's really, and the communication's been really good.